Hello fellow Magnolia friends. This is an introduction of the Magnolia JCX module, which currently provides the JCX unmarshaller. The JCX unmarshaller allows to retrieve data from a Jackrabbit repository using JAXB annotations. Be aware that this module is in an experimental state, so if you intend to use it in a production environment, I suggest to thoroughly test it first. In fact, this module came into existence without planning. It initially only consisted of some quickly created helper functionalities and grew into the current state. I hope to stir up some interest for this module, so if you want to help, just contact me. So here we go. This dependency is everything you need in order to get you going. As you can see, I'm using a basic Magnolia web app created through the Magnolia archetype. I already created two page declarations. Here, homepage and article, which are basically the same. Both are using a similar dialog, which only consists of a property title. Both declarations are using the same page template, which is provided using the FMX module here, page FMX. And as you can see, the module itself, the page template itself is pretty basic. It essentially only renders a main area. In order to get things going, we are creating a component, a linked list. So first of all, we need to make this linked list accessible within our home page. So here we created essentially an area definition with a reference to the corresponding linked list. And now we're going to create the linked list component itself. So here comes the component definition. So the component definition has a reference to the linked list FMX template. Here is the location of our dialog, and this is a model which will provide our data. This is a portion where JCX unmarshaller comes into play. But first of all, let's create our template. For the moment, this template is pretty simple. It's essentially only a skeleton. And here comes our dialog definition. For the beginning, we are only using a dialog which allows to configure a title property only. As you can see, most parts are the standard Magnolia boilerplate, but here is the title which is allowed to be configured. Before I'm creating the linked list model, I will set up a base class abstract component model, which is essentially a Magnolia rendering model. As you can see, this model has only two fields, JCX unmarshaller and a by function. The JCX unmarshaller manages the unmarshalling deserialization functionalities per class. You can access these functionalities by requesting a corresponding loader. That's the function here. So this function delivers a loader for this class, and that's the by function, the loader which initializes this class. Here you can see the loader in action. It uses the current node as a data source, and this class, this instance, which has to be initialized. The loader is essentially a collection of assignments and function calls, so each field gets initialized depending on the applied JAXB annotations. Fields with XML transient annotations won't be processed, of course. So now we're creating our linked list model. As you can see, our linked list model inherits the abstract component model, and we're currently only having one property title, which has been configured before in the dialog definition for this component. And you might notice that you can't see any getters or setters. That's okay, because I'm using the Lombok framework, which generates them for us. You can see them here in the outline, so they're actually there. But we want to tell the JSX unmarshaller that this title property should be loaded from the JCR tree. So what we are doing here is using the first JAX-B annotation. So this annotation tells the JSX unmarshaller to look for a property named title and inject this class instance field with the value of that property. If you want to use a different name, you can do this. Just use this attribute value here and choose any name of your liking. But I personally I strongly recommend to use the default titles in every case. And now we're using this property within our template. So this is standard FMX markup. We're essentially only rendering this h2 tag if the model title property has been set. So now we got to go to Startup Magnolia. So here we go. Now I'm creating essentially 2 pages. Here comes the second one. So, and we've registered our linked list component for the home page. So we're just adding this linked list component. Here's only the title for this component. So, and as you can see, the title is properly rendered here. And the only thing that was necessary was this little annotation, XML attribute. So you can imagine if you add various other attributes, it's quite simple. So we verified that the JSX unmarshaller is capable to load attributes using simple XML attribute annotations. What we also want to achieve is to load complex data structures as well. So we're extending our linked list form dialog. So this linked list data structure gets the second property links, and this is essentially a list where each element of this list through a composite field consists of a link and a title property. So now we're gonna create a corresponding model for this. If you take a close look to this dialog definition, you can see this is our list and this is our type within this list, and this type consists of these 2 properties. So we're creating a corresponding subtype named link model, and as you can see, this link model has both of these attributes, link and title. Here, link and title. So let's say we want to also support the URL associated with the corresponding link, because a link only contains the UUID. In that case, our JSX unmarshaller allows us to implement some sort of post-processing using this interface iPostprocessor. And what we also need is a templating functions instance here. So obviously this instance will be provided through our constructor, and therefore it must be marked as transient, so that the JSX unmarshaller is just ignoring this property. And we also need a field to store our URL in. Calling a target, and this field shall be ignored by the JSX unmarshaller as well. And now we're going to add the corresponding code within the postprocessor. So in case UUID has been set, we're resolving our link as usual. So with this little addition, we are also capable to provide the URL directly as well. So what happens if the referred page doesn't exist any longer? In that case, we can add another interface, iContent, and this interface allows us to provide a simple test, has content, and this test essentially says whether this complete object has a value or not. The behavior of JSX on Marshalla is as such that if this has content function returns false, the complete instance is being disposed, so it has no value anymore. The postprocessor also allows to provide some sensible defaults. So in our case, if the title has not been set within our dialog definition, we can make an attempt to get the title from the targeted page. So here is a little helper. So this is a little helper which allows us to access a property named title. And in case the title has not been set, here comes the logger. So in case the title has not been set here, and we've got a link available, we're getting the targeted node, and we're retrieving the title from this targeted node. So if the user doesn't configure a title, the title will be fetched from the referred page. Before we go on to modify our template, we need to make this link model available in our linked list model class. So as you can see, here we're using the XML element notation because this is a complex type. And this annotation, generics type, is just a small helper allowing to get to know which inner type is being used, because this inner type gets lost. This will be subject to change in the future in order to use standard JXP annotations. So what essentially should happen is that the JSX Marshalla reads this links properties and properly configures corresponding link model objects from this. So now we're gonna use this property. Therefore we're going in our template. So, and as you can see, we're using a standard list, model links, and we're creating a div element per list, where this div element gets a simple link. Here's the target. This is the URL we've created within the post-processing block, and this is the title we have derived. So now let's check it out, whether it works or not. Here is our linked list component. Here we can add the additional links. So first this, we're providing a title here. Now we're using a different page. Also a title. And now we don't provide a title because the title should be taken from this page. So here's a much more prettier site view. And as you can see here, these are the titles we have been provided. And this is the title provided by the page. And as you can see, the in the bottom of the screen. At the bottom of the screen, the URLs are properly generated here. So it obviously seems as if JSX on Mashallah properly deserialized the JSCR content. Now I will show the support of non-trivial elements. Each element shall be configurable using a position attribute, and the position attribute should be an enumeration which allows the values left, center, right. So first of all, we need to modify our dialog definition. So as you can see, I've added here a property position, and this position property allows the values left, center, right, and it is provided as a select field definition. So only these values are choosable. Now we need to create the corresponding enumeration element. So as you can see, this is the enumeration portion essentially, and this inner class provides two purposes, because it implements the XML Java type adapter, which can be used for the Java JAX-B serialization process, and a converter functionality, which is used by our Magnolia integration. Therefore, if you were carefully looking, you can see here is a reference of the converter class. So this essentially translates our strings into horizontal position enumerations. And now we gotta add the corresponding property to our link model. As usual, it's a simple XML attribute, but as we are using a custom type, horizontal position, we also need to declare a corresponding adapter, which can be then done with this annotation. So the JSX on Mashallah will use this JAX-B adapter in order to provide the deserialization functionality. Since it's an optional field, we are making sure that this field always has a value. We could do so in the template, but I prefer to do it here. And last but not least, we need to use it within our template. So, and that's it. So now we're gonna show this in action. So here we are choosing left, here center, and here right. And voila, all items are spread accordingly. So to wrap it up, I hope you are interested in this module. If you've got additional questions, just contact me. The homepage will provide additional information.